I've been to more than 50 supposedly haunted places across the country, schools, hospitals, asylums. But none of them felt like this one. The locals called it Raven Ton, a town erased from maps in 1978 after a mine collapse supposedly wiped it off the grid. But if you drive far enough into the Colorado backroads, past where the asphalt turns to dirt and dirt turns to silence, you'll find a rusted sign, half swallowed by weeds, that still reads, "Welcome to Raven Ton, population 643. That's where I stopped recording for the first time. Because the moment I saw that sign, my camera died. Fully charged batteries, gone. Every piece of tech I had just cut off. I waited 10 minutes, standing there in the quiet. No birds. No insects. Just the wind, except it wasn't even wind. It was breathing. Long, slow breaths. Coming from the trees. I told myself it was just nerves. I'm a professional. I've done this for years. I'm Ethan Ross, founder of Spectre Line Investigations. But this job, this one wasn't for views. It was personal. You see, my brother, Daniel, vanished here 2 years ago. He came to Raven Ton chasing the same story I am now. The official report said he got lost during a storm. But my mom still gets calls from his number. Blank voicemails. Just heavy breathing. So yeah, I came to find him. Or at least to find out what took him. By the time I reached the first row of buildings, the sun had already dipped. It was one of those skies that doesn't really darken, it just fades into this sickly grey haze. Like twilight that never ends. Houses lined both sides of the road, windows boarded, doors hanging open. The paint peeled in strips like skin. Everything smelled faintly of sulfur, or maybe rotten eggs. I set up my main camera across the old post office, hit record, and started my EVP session. "Is anyone here?" I said, voice steady. "If you can hear me, make a sound." At first, I thought I imagined it. Then I checked my headphones. There it was. A whisper so soft it almost blended with static. But it wasn't English. It was reverse speech. I replayed it 4 times before I realized it was saying my name. Ethan. That's when I decided to pack it up for the night. But before I could, something flickered across the street. A figure, pale, unmoving, watching me from behind the window of the church. I froze. My instinct was to grab my flashlight, but when I turned it on, the window was empty. Or so I thought. Because the second I lowered the light, the reflection in the glass, it wasn't mine anymore. It was Daniel's. I backed away slowly, my camera still rolling. I remember whispering, "Daniel," like an idiot. The reflection's lips moved. I couldn't hear what he said, but I read it clear as day, "You shouldn't have come." And then the window cracked from the inside out. Glass hit the pavement. Something screeched through the night, not an animal, not human either. Like a scream played backward through a broken speaker. I ran for my car. Or at least I thought I did. But somehow, no matter how far I went, the same buildings kept repeating. Post office, diner, church. I circled 3 times and ended up back where I started. That's when I realized Raven Ton wasn't a town anymore. It was a loop. And I was already inside it. I decided to shelter in the diner for the night. The sign outside still flickered faintly, "Mary's Eats," the E half burnt out so it just read Mary's Ots. Inside, everything was frozen mid-meal. Plates on tables, coffee still in mugs, a pie half cut on the counter. Like everyone had just stood up and vanished. There was dust on everything, decades worth. And yet the coffee was still warm. I aimed my camera toward the counter, zoomed in, and that's when I saw it, a journal. Leather-bound, black, cracked with age. It had Daniel's handwriting. Page after page of him describing the same things. Whispers, reversed voices, dreams about a figure in the well. The last entry read, "It's not a town. It's a mouth. And it's hungry again." Before I could flip another page, something banged on the window behind me. Once. Twice. Then, slowly, every single light in the diner went out, one by one. And in the dark, I heard the bell above the door jingle. Someone, or something, had just come inside. The door creaked open, slow, deliberate. I held my breath, crouched behind the counter, watching the faint outline of a figure glide across the diner floor. Not walk, glide. Bare feet scraping tile. It stopped in front of my camera tripod. I watched the monitor screen, heart slamming in my chest. The figure leaned in close to the lens, and I swear on my life, the screen glitched, flickering between static and Daniel's face. He looked dead. Eyes grey, veins black. Then he whispered, not through his mouth, but through the speaker of my own recorder. It listens when you breathe. And then, silence. When I looked back up, the figure was gone. I should have run. Should have left everything. But the thing is, I couldn't. My brother's journal had mentioned a well and a voice beneath the town. If he'd gone looking for it, maybe he was still here. So, I followed the dirt road toward the church. The closer I got, the heavier the air felt. It was like walking underwater. Each breath burned colder. The church was still intact, somehow. A white wooden building leaning against time. The cross on top had snapped, hanging by a nail. The front doors were open just enough to whisper. Inside, rows of pews lined in perfect order, covered in dust thick as ash. At the altar, candles were still lit. That's when I realized they weren't candles. They were tongues of light burning upward from the cracks in the floor. And in the middle of the altar was a hole, perfectly circular, rimmed with bones. I recorded everything. If anyone finds this, I whispered into the camera, I'm at the Raventon Church. There's, behind you. I spun around. Nothing. The door was closed now. I ran to open it, locked. Bolted from the outside. Then, the chanting started. Low at first, like dozens of voices murmuring from beneath the floorboards. I dropped the camera and pressed my ear to the wood. The words were rhythmic, old. Latin, maybe. I caught only fragments, vocum suam, non respices, sanguinem reddit. I translated later. It meant, do not answer its voice. It will return the blood. But I didn't know that then. I just knew something was coming up. The boards began to crack, one by one. And then the whispering stopped. For a moment, the silence was so thick it hurt my ears. Then, a voice, deep, wrong, vibrating through the entire building, you came for him. I froze. Daniel. I whispered. He came for me. And before I could move, a black hand burst through the altar floor. Long, thin fingers, too many of them, scraping the edge of the well. I stumbled backward as the ground opened wider, revealing a pit of nothing, just darkness that moved. Something was crawling up from it, shaped like a man but shifting, constantly bending. You left him here, it said. You brought me more. I fired my flashlight at it. The beam bent, like the light itself was afraid. That's when I saw it properly. It had Daniel's face, stitched wrong, inverted like a reflection turned inside out. His eyes were open, but something else was looking through them. I screamed his name. Daniel, it's me. Please, the thing smiled. He's part of me now. Then it crawled fully out of the pit. Its body wasn't solid, it was shadow, soaked into the air like ink spreading through water. Wherever it stepped, the wood blackened and sank. I backed away toward the door, grabbing the old metal cross from the wall. I swung it, desperate, it didn't even touch. The metal passed right through it, and yet something grabbed my arm. Cold, wet, like a hand made of smoke. Then, a sound. Not from the creature. From above. A bell. The church bell rang, 3 times, even though the rope was long gone. And when it did, the creature screamed, not in pain, but in rage. You called it back. That's what it said before dissolving, collapsing back into the hole like liquid shadow. The doors burst open behind me. I ran, straight out into the street. But Raventon had changed. There were lights now, in every house. Silhouettes moving behind windows. Hundreds of them. And every single one turned toward me in perfect unison. I bolted for my car, fumbling for my keys. When I finally got the engine to turn over, I looked up through the windshield. Every light in the town flickered off. Except one. The church. Its door was open again. And from the dark inside, something was still whispering my name. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car, headlights pointed toward the church, hands shaking, trying to convince myself what I saw wasn't real. But my camera footage said otherwise. Every few seconds, Daniel's face flickered through the frames, superimposed over mine, whispering things I couldn't understand. When I slowed it down, I caught one phrase on his lips: below the town. Below me. There was no road out of Raventon anymore. My GPS showed blank space, just black. Every direction I drove ended the same: the diner, the post office, the church. Like the town was folding in on itself. By dawn, I decided there was only one thing left to do. If Daniel went down that well, I had to go too. The morning light didn't feel real. It was grey, heavy, almost metallic. When I stepped outside, the ground seemed softer, like the earth itself was breathing. As I walked back toward the church, the buildings on either side had changed again. Windows were gone. Doorways had shifted. Raventon was rearranging itself. Inside the church, the pit was still open. But now it wasn't just a hole, it pulsed like a heartbeat. The air around it rippled, humming with energy. I tied my rope to a pew, clipped on my headlamp, and lowered myself into the darkness. At first, it was silent. Just the creak of the rope and my breath echoing off stone. Then I hit dirt, soft, damp, and warm. The tunnel below was huge, carved into the rock, leading down and down. Symbols were scratched into the walls: circles, crosses, eyes, and something that looked like a mouth. Every few steps, my recorder clicked. Static burst, followed by faint sounds, Daniel's voice. I kept going, because if I stopped, I'd lose my mind. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. It looked like an underground church, pews carved into stone, a pulpit made of bone, and in the center, a black pool that reflected nothing. There were bodies down there too. Dozens, half-buried, eyes open, all staring upward. When I stepped closer to the pool, every recorder, every camera, turned on by itself. All of them pointed toward me. Then, from the pool, a face surfaced. Daniel. Except, it wasn't him. His eyes were wide, black veins crawling across his skin. His mouth opened, wider and wider, until it cracked his jaw. "You took its name," he whispered. "Now it wants yours." I fell back, crawling away, but hands, human hands, shot out from the dirt and grabbed my ankles. Hundreds of them. Cold and strong. The whole chamber shook. The pool began to rise, a column of black water forming into the shape of a man. It was the same thing I'd seen in the church, but clearer now. A tall, shifting silhouette with no face, only a hole where its mouth should have been. From that mouth came every voice I'd heard since I arrived. Daniel's, mine, the whispers, the Latin chants, all at once. "Ethan Ross, you are heard." The lights on my gear exploded. Every shadow in the room bent toward me. Then, the sound stopped. Utter silence. In that quiet, something moved behind me. I turned, and there he was. Daniel. Standing. Breathing. "Dan." I whispered. He looked at me, trembling. "You shouldn't have come." "I can get us out," I said, reaching for him. He stepped back. His eyes filled with tears. "It doesn't let go once you answer it." Before I could ask what he meant, he screamed, a raw, animal sound, and something pulled him back into the pool. I lunged after him, but the surface hardened like glass. All my equipment fell silent. Even my heartbeat seemed to stop. Then, the whisper returned, right behind my ear, "It's your turn to listen." And everything went black. Sound, deep rumble fades into silence. I woke up outside. The sun was gone. My car, gone. My cameras, melted. All I had was Daniel's journal, open to a page that wasn't there before. The well doesn't end. It learns your voice. Once you hear yourself below, You never leave. When I stood up, I realized what he meant. Because from deep underground, I heard it. My own voice, whispering the same thing I said on my first recording, "Is anyone here?" And something answered when I came to. My throat was raw. My headlamp was flickering. The town looked wrong. The sky was the same color as the dirt, gray, thick, unmoving. It wasn't night. It wasn't day. It was between. Everywhere I looked, the houses were closer. Like the streets had shifted while I was out cold. Windows faced inward now, toward the church. And from every single one, I could hear breathing. Not wind. Not animals. Just breath. Hundreds of lungs pulling the same air in and out. I grabbed my recorder, it still worked somehow, and clicked it on. "This is Ethan Ross," I whispered. "If anyone finds this, I'm still in Raventon. The town, it's alive. It's moving." Static broke through, followed by my own voice answering from the speaker, "It's listening." I dropped the recorder. I ran. No direction, just away. Past houses, stores, broken lampposts, every road looping back into the same square. The same gas station. The same burnt-out truck. No matter how fast I went, it always ended where I began. The post office. The diner. The church. Over and over. By the 10th loop, I wasn't even sure I was moving anymore. The air shimmered, rippled, like heat waves, but cold. My reflection in the diner window followed me a half-second late. And then, it smiled. That's when I stopped running. I remembered Daniel's last words, "It doesn't let go once you answer it." So maybe, the only way to end it was to stop answering. I turned off my recorder, my flashlight, my radio, everything. And for a while, the town went still. I sat in the middle of the road, head in my hands, whispering prayers I didn't believe in anymore. Then, slowly, the church bell began to ring again. Once. Twice. 3 times. And then, a 4th. When I looked up, the sky was bleeding, not red, but black, dripping into the clouds like ink. The church doors swung open. And out walked Daniel. He looked alive. Whole. Smiling. He said, "You can go now." I stood up. "What?" He pointed behind me. There, on the horizon, was a road, one I hadn't seen before. Asphalt, clear, leading straight out of town. I didn't think. I ran. Didn't look back. Didn't stop. For the first time, the air felt real. The ground solid. I could smell rain. When I finally reached the highway, I collapsed. Cars passed. People stopped. Someone called an ambulance. They found me 3 days later, dehydrated, shaking, with second-degree burns on my palms and something they called auditory hallucinations. They told me Raventon doesn't exist. Never did. No records. No ruins. Nothing on satellite. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Test recording, Ethan Ross, Spectre Line Investigations. Location, Raventon, Colorado. EVP Session 1. If you can hear me, make a sound. Pause. Yes. Daniel? Is that you? No. The voice was mine. Police said the tape ended there. But there was one final log file recovered from his camera. It wasn't a video. Just audio, 2 minutes of breathing, then one faint whisper at the end, "He's still listening."